Okay, so here we are on my video recording on my phone. This is the substrate I got. It's just Aquarian gravel, mineral rich volcanic soil. The idea of it is that it kind of has minerals, obviously mineral rich, as well as some like nutrients to help plants grow. There's really not too much to say about it. I got it from Petland. Each bag was just under $50. Seems expensive, but honestly it's one of the cheaper ones you can get that has the mineral rich volcanic soil. It's just basic Petland brand fish gear. Never actually used it myself, but I figured, well, why not give it a shot? I'd rather, if I'm going to do this for the first time ever, I'd rather use the slightly cheaper stuff than invest like $75 to like $100 per bag and just end up failing anyway. Just kind of, this little sticker says mineral rich volcanic soil, ideal substrate for stimulating the growth of aquatic plants in freshwater aquariums. Just very simple, basic, dust free. Still gonna rinse it off just in case, because you never know what builds up in there over time, like any dust or anything, especially since this one you can tell has been ripped and taped over. I got it knowing that happened, but sometimes life is what it is. I didn't mind too much. So the next thing I got is this really pretty background to go on my fish tank. I got a little over 3 feet because that way I can trim it down to 3 feet, which is the length of my tank. I really like the kind of driftwood and treesy look, because in my tank I'm putting driftwood and trying to make it look like a bit of a forest or like a park or something. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it yet, but we're gonna work on it. With that, I also got this Marina Clearview liquid background adhesive. I've used it before with one of my smaller tanks back when I just had my 10-gallon, and it does stick on really well, if a little bit messy during the application process. I'll do my best to document that as well, but like I said, it gets a little messy. So yeah, that's that. Pretty simple there. So I also got this kind of crystal looking like purple amethyst kind of, not too sure, gravel. I thought it would make really cute to make like a type of path type thing down the tank. Not too sure how I'm gonna do it, but I just thought it would make a really nice accent. I'd never use this as just the substrate alone because that's just not really my style. But many people do choose to do that, especially for smaller tanks. It can look really nice, but I prefer the slightly more natural look for my bigger tank. So this right here is just Premium Nutrition for All Planted Tanks by Tropica. You just do a few pumps in a tank. I haven't quite calculated because it says per 1,000 liters or per 100 liters for how many pumps you need per week. I haven't actually done the calculations on how many liters is in 30 gallons, so I'm not too sure of exactly how many pumps I'm gonna need every week, but I've heard really great reviews about this stuff, so I'm hoping that it works for me the way I want it to. I just got the for all planted tanks because I'm not 100% sure how many plants I'm going to be putting in the tank, especially like right at the beginning. I'm probably just gonna slowly add as I go throughout. But if I do have a lot of plants, I will switch it to the for heavily planted tanks. But for now, I think this one will do just fine. So the next thing I got is just these little pieces of spiderwood. Kind of what I'm planning on doing with them is gluing them to each other, maybe kind of something like that, to kind of get that little tree look. And then I'll probably glue some plants onto it to add some leafy look, like a Java moss or maybe some Monte Carlo plants would work really well. I've heard that they do really well not actually being physically planted into the substrate. But yeah, so that's just this. I do have other wood in my tank that does really well, especially with my little pleco. He likes to chew on it and such. So I think that this will just add to that really nicely. So basically my plan is fairly simple. I'm just gonna kind of attach this like this. Kind of look like, get that like rooty feel at the bottom, and then glue plants up to the top and along the branches, hopefully being able to cover up those little holes there. It kind of looks like the wood is having sex right now, but okay. And yeah, so I'm just gonna give that a glue, and then I will come back once it's all glued. So I did encounter a few fairly minor problems with attempting to glue the wood together. For some reason it just did not want to cure together no matter how long I held it, attempted to hold it together. You can kind of see right there a little bit of the white residue from the glue I was using, but it just, for the life of me, would not cure together. So instead I've decided that I'll just kind of make these two separate trees, and I'll put plants on the branches, sort of, whatever you want to call them, of each of the pieces of spiderwood, and I'll just consider it two separate trees, which will be smaller and make my betta look like a bit of a giant, but it will in the long run work towards my idea of having like having a park or a forest type theme. So I'm not too stressed out about that. I'm just gonna have a little fun with it. That's all. So now that we've kind of gone through everything I got for the switchover, I'm just gonna kind of show you what I have. This is my 30-gallon long. It's pretty empty except for the really cruddy substrate I have at the bottom. I don't even know what's going on. It's just some leftover substrate I had that I mixed together in order to have enough to at least decently cover the bottom of this whole thing. You can also see that's really gross here. That's because I've already started emptying it out and trying to pull out some of the substrate, and it's creating a pretty big unexpected mess. So while I'm here, I'm just gonna show off my betta a little bit. He's just hanging out down there, swimming around, living the good life, as good as he can. As you can kind of see, he's got a little bit going on up on his back. It looks like some sort of red open sore, or maybe a bit of bacterial infection. I'm not too sure. I do have his water salted, as well as I'm using Melifix, and he's been in isolation for a few days, ever since I actually noticed that he's not looking too great. So he's just hanging out in there. It's kind of hard to see him. He likes to hide behind things. He's a bit of a shy boy. His name is Captain America, because, I mean, look at his colorings. How could I name him anything else? And then down here, I've got an assassin snail hanging out on the wall there. Whole bunch of Harlequin rasboras. They're not too happy right now because they're stuck in a 5-gallon together. Usually they're all in the 30-gallon. Hanging out down here, I've got my little bristlenose pleco. He's not stuck or anything. He just legitimately loves hanging out underneath of wood, which I guess makes sense. I've got my little whoops, that's my little shrimp. I had two, but one passed away, unfortunately. But he's looking pretty good. And yeah, they seem to be having fun. Ignore the fact that there's a whole bunch of spots on the tank. It is just a temporary while I finish setting up the other one. And then this is what this tank is looking like. I've got the substrate in. I've got a solid couple of inches here of substrate just to make sure that there's plenty of room to get them plants in so that they can root properly. This is kind of what I meant up here, as you can see with the trees. I'm gonna turn those into little trees in the corner so that it has a nice look. I'm also going to, in a few minutes, kind of dig a path here and then fill it with those crystals. I'll see if I can find a way to film that. But yeah, we're just gonna hope for the best, but that's what it's looking like right now. Okay, so you can sort of see right here where I started to build my path. What I'm gonna do is fill it with these little purple crystally type gravels and just see how that looks. So I'm just gonna kind of set that up like that, I guess. Functional, at least. Throw this in like this. Clean it up a little bit. This kind of to set the stone in place. You can kind of see here what I'm doing. I guess you maybe can't. So you can sort of see how the path is building up. I don't want to really, my goal here is to kind of not really be able to see the regular substrate along this path area. So I'm just gonna add some more now. Like a few random red ones. I don't really want that in there. So I'm just gonna keep on dumping there. So I did end up using the whole bag. I'm just going to take out the little red one, you can see. Don't really care for the red pieces. Just gonna smooth that out. Pull this wood out a little bit so you can see it a little better. Oh dear. Let me touch that up. There, that's better. Give that a little shove in. There. So you can kind of see how it's got that little crystally path. So let me pull out so you can see it a little better. It's kind of just like magic path. I might go for a bit of a enchanted foresty look because I just really love the little enchanted look that this gives. So we're just gonna talk about what I did with the tank for a minute here. As you can see, I've got my harlequins swimming around there. They're just having a grand old time. A little shrimp down there. My pleco's in here somewhere hiding out. And then I did put the branches up, the pieces of wood up there to make the trees. I also kind of put the filter behind the tree. I put the filter behind the tree so that it'd be easy to hide because it doesn't look the prettiest. I also have the heater right up against the back there so it'll be easy to hide with plants as well because it is pretty big and clunky, but it works. Then I also added in this little clay potting cup, just a teeny tiny one, into the substrate to make a bit of a cave type thing. It would look a little better if it were black, but it'll do. I also have my couple of fake plants up in here. That's just because they have the beneficial bacteria built on them presumably, as well as I don't have a lot of the real plants yet, so for now they're what I have. You can also see I have a bunch of my moss balls just hanging around. Not too sure what I'm gonna do with them yet, but they're there. The water does still look pretty cloudy, but that'll go away within a couple of days. I'm loving how the background looks. I think it adds a lot to the scape and makes my job a little bit easier. Anyhow, I'm gonna head out to the pet center and pick up the last things I need. I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so let's talk about what I've done so far. I've put the Amazon sword behind this tree here. I just think that it looks really nice and it hides the filter quite well. You can still see it up there, but what are you gonna do? Over here, I've also put the Anubias Nano. It's just very small, pretty good for a foreground plant. It can also be like a median plant, but I kind of like it just in that corner there. All of my moss balls are kind of stacked up together there. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them in the end yet, but they're there. I also put the taller grass to cover the heater a little bit, and the smaller grass is just kind of split up along here. But yeah. For now, I've also put the Monte Carlo and the big Anubias into Captain America's tank, just for temporary holding. Ain't he cute though?